every athlete, every person, every human being has an opportunity. Some opportunities don't come when you want them. But if you're prepared, good opportunities can happen. Always be ready, because you never know when your number is going to get called.
I'm not coming back.
Emiy Apparel. Encourage me. I'm young.
Calvin T. Mann, leading Emiy, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to Emiy TV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Emiy TV, Put Your Family First podcast time. It's time to get into some solutions, as we often bring our conversation and our time here to share information and life and all kinds of things taking place throughout the world. Today will be no different. I think we are going to get into some family stuff again, the importance of elders and family reunions. So, elders are huge. I don't know where to go. Hey, you guys, how you guys doing today?
Good.
Monique and Heather, right? So we're in the building. I'm not shaving. I know I look real thick around the mustache area, which is hilarious, right? If you like to laugh, right? Me and my brothers have laughed pretty much today. So, getting into the concept of why elders are so important to family reunions, family environment, because the elders has the wisdom.
For sure.
And a lot of times, we don't put a seat next to the elders. We put our seat next to Uncle Rufus, who like to blow his socks off, and with the corn liquor and crack jokes. We're drawn to that, but we don't go sit next to Grandpa, who's minding his own business, he got his own 40 acres and a mule, and not ask him not one question of how he got it. I say that because that's what I was drawn to as a young man. I always messed with the older people. So being young, I go sit and talk to the older people, because I know at some point I'm gonna get an opportunity to crack a joke. And to be serious about this, that's what I was known for. I mean, like, I literally did my own comedy CD for a family reunion. Well, back then it was a cassette tape. So let me correct that. That's when you could record on the cassette tape. And it was a hit, but my mama hated. You know what I mean? So my mama was a hater.
Yeah, she was one of the people you were joking about, so I don't blame her.
No, that one, I didn't go in on my mama. I only cracked one joke on them. They was the Gumbies, right?
Right. And
that joke came from them all.
Hey, don't say it. Don't even go there.
I think it's hilarious.
No, it's not. No, it is not. And you will not put that on this recording.
Right? And so they all got a nickname after that, right? And because my mother, my aunts, they all hung out. And they hung out together. And at the same time, during that time, like we grew up, Monique, with the gambling parties. So, you know, we had the gambling parties. They was at the house for 3 days in a row. You know, the people from the plant, right? So that was you going to the store, right? Take the list, go to the store, get me a pack of Cool Miles and a Pepsi, right? And then it was Benson and Hedges menthols, right? That was their thing, right? And then all the change would be in one location. And so I'm talking about they gambled sun up, sundown, right? And we used to make the little fish sandwiches, the little sausage sandwiches, you know, cut the sausage in half, put it on bread with the mayo and the slice of cheese, right? Back then, the cheese was thicker than the brick. And so, that's where I learned to hang with the elders. And as a matter of fact, that's how I learned to barbecue. It was my Uncle Dwayne who first showed me how to barbecue. And that was a long story because then after I did it, I had to walk home with the ribs. So from Roselawn to Prairie, which is about 5-6 blocks, right? One of the ribs didn't make it. Right? Along the way, I was stopping popping bones. So that resulted in a whooping, right? Anyway, I've always been drawn to seniors, right? All the people that were older than me. Mr. Cecil, my whole story is full of older people, having relationships, getting wisdom, the whole nine from older people. And so today, I guess that's what, Heather want to talk about with these, family reunions. By the way, you can get some family reunion teas. Let me know. Leave a message. We popping with the teas. I'm back. And as a matter of fact, shout out to the Detroit Historical Museum because our Resilient Detroit will be in the Detroit Historical Museum for sale. So where you want to go with this? Me personally, I can talk about seniors all day. My granddaddy, come here, sir. That's how my granddaddy used to call you. He didn't say much, but if he say, come here, sir, you know it was on. Or he'll do the round and round the mulberry bush to put you on his lap. And the monkey chased the weasel. Round and round, he'd pull up, stop, blop. So we all grew up with that. Out of one house, over 216 bodies came out of that house. And the house is still in our family. So that's another reason why family is so important to us.
Right. Yeah, thank you. We know that this is family reunion season mostly through mid-June to toward the end of August. It's really our family reunion season. And I think in my family history, our family that has the family reunion in Florida is you talked about the bodies out of one household, is the Williams Ayers family. And that family, I think we're at maybe year 50. I want to say it's probably year 58 or 59 at this point that we've been having the family reunion every year. I think COVID was an exception. And I think that was the only real break in our family reunion. And one of the important, as an institution, a family reunion institution in my family, it is a tradition, but it's also an institution. There are certain things that happen with a family reunion. And my family, and I know there are other families that use this kind of motto. One, there are the elders. And so that's the matriarch, patriarch of the family. And that is, and I'm just going to frame it like this. The matriarch and patriarch of your family is kind of where you start your family line, your family history, and then what happens after that. So they are the tree. So it'd be, for me and my Florida family, because, we have two sides of the family, mom's side and dad's side. So for my dad's side of the family tree, that's the Williams Ayers family. And it's almost a council of elders. Like part of the tradition is that you are brought into that elder circle. And you are not brought into that elder circle until you, one, reach a certain age, and two, that you have a certain level of responsibility, because all of the elders at that time have a level of responsibility. So my great grandparents are the tree. They're considered the tree, and their children are considered the branches. And so my great grandparents and their how many kids they had? I want to say they had 8, 9 kids, and my grandmother was the oldest daughter. So my great grandparents are the tree. Their children are the branches. Their children, which would be my dad, is the leaf on the tree, and his children are the fruit. So if you can use that analogy, the great grandparents who kind of start that line for you are the tree. Their children are the branches. Out of those branches come the leaves, which would be, for me, is my parents. And from the leaves, we are the fruit. So I am the
Acorns.
fruit. I am the fruit, and my children and our grandchildren become part of that fruit, because what we're looking at is the manifestation of the lives lived by our great grandparents and what values they passed down. One of the reasons why, for me, the understanding of the elder circle, it taught you respect. It taught you the value of what they bring to your family. It was the branches, the children of my great grandparents, who brought everybody together. So it was their brothers and sisters that brought everything together, that were the ones and their generation that did the cooking, they did the organizing, they made the plans, and the rest of us contributed, but we pretty much showed up and did the heavy lifting. So literally heavy lifting, the ice bags, the setting up, those kinds of things you did. But the cooking, that was part of what the branches did. As you learn that, then you started to learn how to organize your family reunion, how to do big gatherings, how to recognize and honor. One of the things that most families do at a family reunion before you engage in the food, most people pray. But some people don't even understand why you offer the prayer and what you're offering the prayer over. And if we are very conscious and very careful, we start to learn the values that have been passed down from generation to generation. If you don't have that kind of relationship with the elders, whether that's your parents, grandparents, their siblings, those are really, really important relationships, because that is where you learn about order in your family. A lot of us tend to get out of order when we lose the understanding and the insight as to where we come from. And so I think that's an important framework as we look at the elders and the family reunions and what role they truly play. They set the tone for the following generations, and then there's a shift. So once the fruit, that means the great-grandchildren and the great-great-grandchildren show up, then by that time it's often a shift. And those who were, for us, the branches, now they're the elders, because, for us, my great-grandparents on my dad's side, they lived a full life, almost up to 100 years. But from there, their children then took over. And they understood that, one, it was mandatory. It was mandated by my great-grandfather that the reunion must happen every year. That was his mandate. And that tradition, and why we had to, because one of the challenges that families often face is that we grow up and we grow out. Some people move into different places, and then sometimes you're disconnected from that source of family, and you at least would come together once a year to reconnect, to reestablish your family history, meaning you know who your great-grandparents are, you know who their siblings are, broadly who's who in your family and how you're connected. When we don't do that, and we're often from the same family line, a lot of, I'm just going to call it mixed breeding can happen. If you don't know this is your cousin and you fall in love and you get married, you never knew that was your cousin and that's your blood relative. So, I mean, there's some additional, challenges, health challenges that can sometimes blur the lines or affect how the outcome of the children. So that's one important reason. And because, in previous years, we were often, disconnected. So you could have been disconnected for many reasons. Like I said, you grow up and you grow out and you go and expand and explore your own journey. And then you settle in somewhere and nobody knows where you are because there wasn't somebody that was keeping track, or you got disconnected, or for whatever reason. So we have to make sure that that line of communication, that line of sight from your great-grandparents down to the great-grandchildren, that there is a connection. Because the other part of it, and this is one of the things Calvin often talks about, is the history that's recorded on the DNA and how that's passed from generation to generation. There are people who are absolutely brilliant. It comes from somewhere. It's not just a random thing that you happen to be a brilliant person. You have been cultivated over generations to be and know what you know and who you are. And so when you lose sight of that, when you are disconnected with it, it's almost that's an important mindset to have. That connection, that family tie, that family bond is important, and that connection between those who know your family history, the deeper family histories, is really important, because if that information is not passed down, often it's passed through an oral history. Often there's there are death and birth records, and we were kind of, I'm going to say, taught to keep that information in a family Bible or in a church record. That's where you would find most of our history, our family histories for a lot of people, in a lot of cultures and a lot of communities. But for our culture, that's kind of how we have been moving forward over the years. So that's an important acknowledgement, and it shows the value that if those elders, the matriarch, patriarch, I'm saying great-grandparents, if they're not passing down those stories and that history, because their history is deep history. My grandfather and grandmother were born before the 1900s. And so all the things that happened to them, to our family during that time, which it was a deep and rich history, if they don't share those stories and pass them down, we don't know who we are. It disconnects us from our identity. And so that's one of the reasons why my great-grandfather felt that the family reunion was so important. You need to know who you are, because identity is so very important to the livelihood of a person. And so the more we connect as a family, the stronger we are. And so, Calvin, I know you had family reunions come up this summer. Well, you have 2 family reunions coming up, right? Or that have taken place this summer.
Well, Evangeline said the elder circle impacts the history of the family.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Yes.
So,
when you think about your family, I know there was one. So what family reunion was at the same time as mine in June? Was that the man or was that the McNeil side?
Well, the man, they had it already, right? I didn't go, but they had the name out there. They had they put it out there, right?
What do you mean by had the name out there?
So they put the MANN in lights.
Okay.
And blocks so people could take pictures next to it.
Oh, okay. So that does part. That's part of the idea of a sense of identity, and your family with that act highlighted how important your family name is to your family and to your family identity. So that's one of the ways that it was expressed in your with your family.
Yeah. Well, the identity piece, everyone needs that, right? And it's because identity is not really necessarily practiced, right? The family reunion becomes the way. But again, I said earlier, in popping into the morning show, our culture is suffering in terms of everything that we do, and about what we're talking about is relationships. And that's part of the outcome from these bad opportunities of, where we come together, we at the family reunion, and it's a cousin over there that always do this, or it's a cousin over there that always do that, or it's an aunt over there, and here she come, and what, right? And so the destruction, the peace, has to become the solution piece. So in that process, you have to have, these moments in family reunions for a reason, right? You have to, right? And my family just so happened to crack a lot of jokes. So when my family comes together, it's joke time. right, is even the stories that get told is joke time, right? You remember that time when you started hearing the jokes, and I'm talking about they are relentless, and so we end up at our family events and reunions, we end up cracking up. As a matter of fact, my brother just called to set up one for our family to get together, our immediate family to get together for August. And so you're talking the importance of the seniors and the older. I was kind of disrespected to my oldest brother. I keep forgetting my oldest brother is a senior. I keep forgetting how old I am. He's the elder. Yeah, he's the elder, right?
And he's the patriarch.
He's the first,
mm-hmm.
right? And so, I find myself having a lot more respect for my brother Columbus, right? A lot more, because he sacrificed so much when my parents went through divorce, and now he's a pastor. And it's just, having these things, family reunions, is just important. If you can have them. We did the every 2 years. This year, we're happen to be doing something, getting an award the same day that Uncle Don and them put something together, right? So
and that's your mom's side, right?
That's my mom's side. And
mm-hmm.
Uncle Don is the baby boy. And, every 2 years, he do this. Right, to bring everybody together, the whole nine. So,
and that's an important lesson that we learn, and we get that from our elders. Somebody has to take on the responsibility and be the matriarch or be the patriarch and say, we're going to come together, and have the authority to bring people together. Because and so in my family tradition, so outside of the family reunion, the ways that my grandfather, my dad's father, he and my grandmother, they had Sunday dinner. Every Sunday they had Sunday dinner. Our responsibility was to be there at least once a month for the family dinner. We had Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so so that was one of the commitments that my grandparents made. But the other commitment that they made was that we have what's called September birthdays, because in our family there is an abundant amount of people born in September. That would be the immediate family, that would be their spouses, that would be your children. There are a significant number of people whose birthdays are in September. And so that became one of our family traditions that birthed out of our family reunion, because that family reunion is in Florida every year. And this was their way, my grandfather's way and grandmother's way, of making sure the local family was able to get together and stay strong and united. So from their branches, now my dad is a branch, and what my mom and dad believed in that tradition. So it is today, from the four brothers that were from my grandmother's line, who's the Ayers Williams family I was mentioning. From their line, 4 are here, and every September, that's one of the times we get together. We also get together on Christmas, and part of the tradition for Christmas is to make sure that no child in our family under 20, really it's 18, but under 20 goes without what we'll just say go without Christmas. So never goes without having and being gifted, so that they don't have a want in that area. And so all of the different family members, so out of the four gift the grandchildren and the great grandchildren. And so that's a tradition. So if you didn't have it that year, or maybe it was a little lean or tight for you, there was always somebody that was covering that part for your children. We also believe in prayer. Prayer has always been a part of how we fellowship over food, how we fellowship when we come together. That is a very important part of our tradition. And again, these are the elders of our family who had put these traditions in order and held us accountable for making sure that they continued through the generations. Another one is that we also all got a family Bible, and in our family Bible is the family history. So from our great grandparents, and for some it's great grandparents, the history is not lost. So, and they expected that everybody would maintain that family Bible and keep it updated. So as you were born into our family or married into our family, that you would always be known and you would always be remembered. And you could always go back and refer to who was who. So you wouldn't lose track of your identity and they wouldn't lose track of their identity. So that was another important tradition. And certain family reunions, there's a time where there's a reading of that book. So it's an opportunity to share who was who, where did you come from, and where did you come from in terms of location. Where was your family's birthplace? That would be your matriarch and patriarch. For us, our great grandparents. Where were they born? Who were their parents? Like, those were important facts to know. And to this day, it's something again that's carried on from year to year, from generation to generation. And as I am with our family on my mom's side, we are uncovering new family that we didn't know about, because they weren't connected in the same way as they were with my father's side of the family, my Florida family. This family from North Carolina is a whole nother tree that we're connected to further up in terms of our great grandparents. And so we didn't know about them. And the other thing that we have uncovered, since we are actually planning this family reunion for July, for the end of July, that our family in North Carolina, one, they didn't know about us, but they didn't have the same kind of oral history passed down. So they only know their grandparents. They don't know any more than that. So they completely missed the branch of our family. So now we're trying to bring all of that together, and this is my generation. So we are the next generation. We're the fruit on this side. We're the fruit. And the responsibility of doing the research. My sister has been back and forth to North Carolina and tracking down our family names. And the other thing, and I'm sure there are other families that had this, the family name that we grew up with is not our family name. And because our North Carolina family was so close to slavery up and through the 1900s, they were still in the same communities. And so the family name was just passed around, but nobody really knew where the family name came from, because the family name came from the slave owners and the families and the family members that they bought and sold across that township. And so it's just really interesting to see how it unfolds. But we know and have done more history than the people who are actually there, because it wasn't important to them, because they didn't have elders that were saying how important these connections are, how important it is to have a family union, because they came up in a different culture. And so I know there are other families that have that. It's really interesting to have and see the dynamic. On one side of a family, we have, going on or more than 60 years of gathering together, and this side of our family they just recently had, this is their second family reunion this year of all the generations that they've had. And so that's a very interesting dynamic. And
I told you I'm tired, baby. I'm in here doing the Miles Dixon.
Oh my goodness. And snoring.
And snoring. I'm in here pulling the Hey, Miles, I done pulled the Miles Dixon.
Oh, my goodness. Now you got Monique hysterical in here. Okay.
That's what we do.
Oh, right. We should have put some thump.
I sure enough pulled the Miles. I see why he be falling asleep in here. Nah.
So anyway, one of the opportunities that we have is to maintain family traditions. And that tradition really is a family value. That is a value that you hold and you hold together, and that value is what's passed down. I know we like to highlight the family union itself, but actually that is a value that you place within your family and empower your family by continuing that tradition. Tradition is a part of value. Traditions are a part of identity. And so that is really important as you start to navigate and really look at the families in our community. What's missing? What's missing? A sense of identity is missing. The wisdom of the elders is missing. The glue and the ties that bind families together. That is a huge cultural concern right now. And so the more we do it, but we have to make sure that we're educating our family and family members while we are doing this process so they have a sense of value. And even as we graft other people into our families, you have to be able to share that expectation. So we have, weddings is a tradition. Baby showers, bridal showers, all of those things are a tradition. Graduations and who shows up at what graduation, all of that is a part of family tradition and a part of the value. But we don't talk about why we support it. We don't talk about why we're there. We don't talk about why we give money to a graduate or a new couple. We don't have those conversations anymore. So the younger generations, the fruit often they don't know the value of the branch. They don't know the value of having somebody attending. It's just, so-and-so is going to be attending. They're going to give me a gift or they're going to give me this. We have open houses now to celebrate, that next level, whether you are mostly graduating from high school, you see it. But often, people who graduate from college, you see it there. But we don't talk about why we are coming together, why it's important to acknowledge. And so I challenge our listeners today to make sure that as you're organizing, participating in those events, and as you are becoming matriarchs and patriarchs in your family, that you hold those traditions, but you actually have to tell the why you do. You have to say what's lost when we don't. So that really needs to be part of our solution in our community and how we change the dynamic of our culture, not just our community. So I think that's an important aspect of what our elders bring to our families, and to not lose sight that, every 10 years there's a new elder that steps into place. Every 10 years, every 25 years, there's a new matriarch and patriarch that steps in. Every 50 years, there's a new tree that then has the branches, that then has the leaves, that then has the fruit that is bared, which is your children, your grandchildren, and your children, and your children's children, right? So we have to be mindful that also God works in generation. We lose sight of that too as a value. And God works in generations for a reason.
Yeah, but marriage is the focal point for you to even come close to having a family reunion. We have far too many kids with 19 different last names. You got 19 kids, and each one of them got a different last name. So it's not a coordinated process. The family reunion process, the very thing that we talk about in bringing families together, the reason why my last name is so important is because so many of us have it.
Right.
So many of us have it. So identity is established with the male. So the patriarch is a very, again. That's
modern history. But don't lose sight, because often when a woman has a child, the child almost automatically has her name unless there's a petition or unless she's married.
Okay. And so
that's one of the reasons why we have and sometimes often see that, family names may change from. I have a nephew, one of them has his mother's name, or two of them have their mother's last name, and one of them has their father's last name.
Okay.
And that was just because of the conditions around when they were born and the whole birth certificate. Yeah. So I mean, it doesn't take away from.
You're proving the point.
Right. I'm saying it is important. Yeah. It definitely is important
because the identity can't be the order.
Order and identity go hand in hand. Yes, they do.
Because while the one that has the last name, he identifies immediately with the family reunion. The other two who don't, they're not necessarily identifying. It's just a place for them to go, right? Because they don't have the patriarch's last name. That is a powerful thing. Men will. That's a huge thing to men for their sons to have their last name.
I get it. I get it too.
Yeah. It's important because that is the tradition. And so what we've come to is once when we deteriorate, that makes it difficult. That's why family reunions was taking a hit. I shared this idea before, and I don't know if I should share it on air, but remember my all last names. Remember I talked about that before, right, on how to bring the people together. But see, when you have solutions and you want to bring people together, it's very difficult because so many people have been traumatized. Right, and it has to shift because the family reunion is not for you to come and just
bring your grief. Right. You're not. That's not what it's for.
That's not what it's for.
It's to bring you together, not just bring your grief.
You have an opinion about your family and all of that, and you come in and like all of that. In my opinion, is you're just giving the excuse as to why you don't identify with the family. That's it. You can pretend, you can dress it up, you can talk, you can do all those things. The family reunion is tomorrow. You show up to the family reunion or not. No, I'm not. So you are so used to, we've become so used to attacking family, right, that this is continuous exit. We continuously exit out instead of continuously build in. That is a problem, right? And so family reunions have taken a hit. There are people who come together and don't know who is that? Well, who is that, right? And so this is why the whole marriage piece is so important. This is why. This is one of the reasons. Like I told you, in the Manns, the McNeils, and the Morgans, all of them is tied into the township. The McNeils, the house is still in the family. That's my grandparents. That's my grandmother and grandfather. The Morgans, right there in the community, so many of them guys became dads, come from that thing. And then the Manns, my grandfather and my father's grandfather were friends. One was the deacon, one was the pastor. My mother and my father married, right? And so society, right? Because how do you help your daughter or your son get in? Everything has become about emotions, and that has been a problem. Because of all of that emotion, as soon as I remove the male, the emotion goes 300. It goes up. But they're still doing arranged marriages everywhere else. Remember the statistic I gave you yesterday here's one for you, Monique, right? And study it. Of the foster care, right? They said in poverty are Hispanics and blacks, right? So in the poverty of poverty, so 10,000 or less, Hispanics, there's still 2 people in that household. And our culture is only 1. Majority. So even in poor, right? And working together, the whole 9, right? So that is destructive. So wouldn't it be that the culture, when we have the conversation about culture, right? Since the 60s, the black culture has not grown. We've remained at 12, 13%. We bought into the system. So you buy into the system. Where are your children? Where are your families? When you bought into the system, you come into the system together. You're exiting the system separate. So then, therefore, your family is impacted across the board. So you've been set up to fail, right? Because the feminist movement and the removing of the dads. And so because you only made up a certain percentage, we didn't have a plan of sticking together because you were convinced that it was only one person that should lead you. So I'm going to feed you this. I'm going to feed you this, Dr. King. I'm going to feed you this, Malcolm X. I'm going to feed you these individuals while you strive for the individuality. You have destructed the unity. So now, as we were talking when we first started this, right? I just shared this with Miles. I said, we can cut on any TV show, whatever. You can pick up your phone right now. And the first thing you're going to see us talking about is what? Relationship. Right? The second thing you're going to hear is talking about how men ain't no good. The third thing you're going to hear is talking about how women ain't no good. The fourth thing you're going to hear is talking about is racism. And the fifth thing you're going to hear is talking about is I'm going to do my own thing. So this is what you've bought into. So then the family reunion becomes what? There's no need. Well, why are you having this family reunion with your family members and y'all don't communicate even? You don't even have a standard. Like, we had a standard. Like, out of all my parents, grandparents, and everything, I'm the only one. Right? My sister, myself, like, we're the only ones with multiple divorces. That's not something our family does. You see? That comes from because of my parents, right? So I understand the impact when you destroy and separate. This is why I'm so adamant. This is another reason why I'm so adamant about fatherhood, because fatherhood, as soon as fatherhood is in play, it restores order. So the family reunion becomes an identity piece, but for those who don't come from a marriage, it becomes detrimental to them. It becomes harmful to them. It reminds them of what they don't have. It taps into what they do not have. They don't necessarily have an identity. And then it makes them feel like, it taps into, where's my dad? I don't have my father. Well, my uncle. See what I'm saying? So my point to all of that is that's the direction you have to go. We have to establish correct order in order for our children to have identity. I can do what I want, so we let the kids do what they want, right? What do they grow up doing? Doing whatever they want, right? So I'm grown, so and so and so and so. And so life gets harder because you didn't have any discipline and no direction. So doing whatever you want leads to hundreds and hundreds of tattoos, piercings, right? The different identity pieces, right? Now you have the situation where I'm not even beautiful unless I got weave in my hair. Oh my God, like, that is just amazing to me. That blows. I'm not even a good man unless I'm tough. I'm a thug. Or, you see, that's an identity crisis, which is different than actually getting an identity, you see? So that's just part of the dynamic, because we always, remember, I've said this, and this is why, see, the matriarch, she had a patriarch. So the matriarch could be seen as Big Mama. Today, the matriarch doesn't have the patriarch. And matter of fact, she's still twerking. 52, 54. She the grandmother. So, and he back, right? Because now he the individual due to Viagra, right? Now he who he is, right? And so more individualism, not enough family, and that's why the culture has not grown. The culture has not grown because we have more individualism and not enough family, and we need family. Our culture needs more marriages and families, and we need to come out of the space and the place of individualism, because individualism is what has not allowed our process to grow. So you can't become 20% of America when you've been stuck at 12, 13%, and you're still having these things at play. You still have murder at a high rate. That comes from the fatherless home. You still have rape at a high rate. That comes from... So the family union will be impacted. Education is impacted because the father is not home. So the boy, the person that's supposed to be the patriarch, he's damaged. And so now you can't necessarily... Who's marrying my daughter? Who's preparing the girls to be wives and the boys to be husbands? That is the question.
And that used to be one of the important roles of the matriarch, the patriarch, and to make sure that there were certain skill sets that were learned. I was talking to a friend yesterday about what it looked like to be at their grandmother's house, the things that they had to learn. And she was saying that I had to stay by the blender because I was the baker. So-and-so had to stay by the skillet because they were the ones that fried the fish and the chicken. So-and-so was by the sink and she said that our grandmother placed us in those spaces to teach us. And once you mastered the skill where you're able to go to the next station and learn about frying fish versus baking now. But this became the thing that you brought to the family event because grandma showed you how to be the best cornbread maker or how to fry the best chicken so all of these things are important, but a lot of those were taught by the patriarch. My grandfather used to work on cars, and I didn't know, but my dad talked about how brilliant and how genius my grandfather was. He could put together a car. He could fix what was broken. He could, build a room, which he did, built a room for his sister to be able to stay in their house. They had a flat, and he built another space for her, built it completely out for her to have her own apartment in that space.
Right.
So, but he taught my uncles and my dad how to do those things. So my dad was an electrician. And so all of them had a skill set that was just taught and necessary for them to know as the men in their families.
You want to hear something that goes along with that, which is crazy? There was a school called Bordentown, New Jersey. It was in Bordentown. This was during World War II, right? Of course, the mob had the front, the ocean front in New York. They couldn't. The government got to come in and ask the mob how to get in. In this Bordentown, New Jersey, in this school, right, where kids would come from all over the country to go to Bordentown, New Jersey, to learn. This was a black educated school, right? Your very first Court of Appeals, the very first Court of Appeals was the first. He was the one that snitched on the principal to help destroy the school. Now, this is crazy, right? So when you go through the process, in their school, when we went to school, we had auto mechanics, right? Mm. In this school, they taught them all the tools and mechanics and everything so they could become whatever they want. If you learn tool sets and things like that, auto mechanics like that, there's nothing you can't do. That's cognitive. Here's the other piece. During World War II, they used those black children as oceanographers.
Wow.
To help with the war. They used those same children to help with the railroads because that's how far advanced they were. And they destroyed the school because the governor signed off during the Brown versus Board of Education. The governor, the last day it was possible, while they were discussing it, the governor signed it and the school got closed.
Oh well, there are countless stories of Black communities being sabotaged, and I was just, as we're doing our family reunion, it's here in Detroit, and if you go to Detroit Historic Museum, there's some amazing things. One of the sense of pride to me that made that last visit really important. I saw Malik Yakini as a feature in there about food and agriculture. I mean, that was amazing. He has such an amazing legacy, with our new food co-op on which we're members. Like that, those things are important to our history and to our culture. And so as he is understood and recognized as a community elder, his voice has weight, and he brings wisdom to whatever conversation you might have with him. He brings wisdom to whatever space you might occupy. And so when we talk about family reunion, one of the ways that he shifted that is to bring together a community co-op. That is a next level family reunion. Every time you go to the co-op to support it, to purchase your products, your groceries, you're part of that family reunion. You're part of that family, that Detroit culture who wants fresh produce, who needs to have opportunity to be with like-minded people who care about your community. Same thing for farmers market. Same thing, all of these different opportunities give us another way to build family and community and to make sure that we're connected and stay connected.
Well, what else can you say? You know what I mean?
And I do want to encourage everybody to go to the Detroit Historic Museum. The admission is free if you're a Detroiter on Wednesdays. It's just a matter of making sure that you're registered, and then we'll do that inside the door. It's free. And they have so many interesting stories of our history and our culture in the community, and some the things that happened to different communities and how the highway came in, and like some of that history is there for people who don't know. It is at least a start to understand where, because my mother and her family was displaced by I-94. And it was eminent domain, like has been across the country, that Black communities, especially those that were stronger and thriving, were always divided, and there was some level of sabotage for not allowing communities to thrive in the ways that they were thriving. It was a threat. And so as we look now at our communities, our families now are the beneficiaries of those threats and of that division. So it just keeps playing out in generations until we recognize who we are. That means our identity. We start to come together to put it in place. That means put the order in place. And we start to build the infrastructure of family so that our children then have this legacy of a culture that they have identity, value, and wisdom and respect for the elders. We have to recreate that. We have to recreate and make sure we continue to highlight that the respect for the elders is your path to the future, because you at some point become that elder that you may not respect and value now. So we have to make sure that we continue to pass down what's value and what wisdom comes with the years of investment in who you are and in your families and in your community. So we have to continue to do that.
Where can they reach you at?
You can reach me by my website at yourinspiredwiththedjourney.com. That's yourinspiredjourney.com. And you can reach me by phone at 313-759-7855. And of course, you can find me on Instagram. You can see some of my Lessons for the Journey videos and messages. I'd like to see you there.
You can reach me at calvintman.com. The wisdom that seniors bring has been under siege for a second. The most amazing thing about when we look at family, we look at the disorder and the acceptance of disorder. Family reunions in our culture should be off the charts. Should be all kind of things going on culturally, music, food, new food. new traditions, business, the business circle. These are things that should be happening in families at the family reunion. At the family reunion, there should be a desk, and there should be a list where everybody could list their business. And that family should be able to go into that business, as my brother just reached out to purchase T-shirts from us, right, for his church. It should be a list of all those businesses where everyone in the family can contribute to that business. There also should be a list where if you got a beef with somebody, put the beef down and let's address it right now on a Zoom or whatever the case may be, just not at the family reunion. You see, if we have a new idea and a concept, those things should be discussed at the family reunion. If a business is about to launch, if we know a little bit more about education and real estate, where can we come together and invest? That's all should be going on at family reunions. But what has happened has got to stop. It has to, because our world, our community, our culture needs to be better. My name is Calvin Mann, president and founder of Encourage Me, I'm Young, Inc. Today has been a beautiful day. Your families out there, if you're looking for T-shirts, get at me. We print, we help design, and make your family shine. And I know next week will be a different day, but I just want you all to know we love you. Peace.
You read the paper, it makes you cry. So many bad things happening that you can't deny. You've got to do more than just pray. We should work hard, people, each and every day.
Love and change, love and change, love and do, yeah, love and do. Exactly what you want it to. Yes, it will, yes. Live yours, live your life authentic. Make it authentic as possible. Be true, keep it 100, no gimmick. Yep. Breathe in, don't doubt, breathe out. Let it out, good vibes. Gotta keep the vibes going. Life short as possible. Do good, do your best. Love God, love it up. We stood, yeah, we did.
Hadn't happened, the world losing its traction. They say, turn down your passion, but that's why we scrapping. Dragging, pulling, most in the same direction. Ain't no hating, true Christians shaking up the resurrection. Total misconception, how you move. I choose love, 10 commandments, follow the rules. God got me and I know it. In fact, he always show it. See, yeah, I saw it. Don't matter rich or poor. Yeah, I'm from the 8 township, Detroit City. They got my back and I'm bringing the help with me. Need help in the suburbs, help in the hood, help in rural areas, the sticks in the wood. We need help in the hospitals, help the high school. I'm serious to say, we need help for these fools. We need help for the leadership. Do your job, lead. Turn up the love and turn down the greed. We need help